Testing 1, 2, 3. I have returned with more Diablo 4 news for you all. So yeah, get this. Diablo 4's loot tables will be adjusted for a particular class in the near future. So if you're struggling to find the right unique weapons for your specific class, well, that might be changing here. Also, the devs share a trick about upgrading legendary items that you might not be aware of. And the devs explain why it is taking so long to re-enable those legendary aspects that were recently disabled. Plus, Diablo Immortal is getting a brand new, never-before-seen class. It's been since 2014 since we've got a new Diablo class like this. But what about Diablo 4? Here's why I'm worried about this, by the way. Also, according to stats, a lot of players are not playing a key feature of the game, but why? So we'll talk about that one as well. But let's go straight to Twitter, to the official stuff. So we have this question here. Level 93 Druid found more than 30 Barbarian unique weapons and not a single Tempest Roar. Fix Druid's loot table? And the response is from Rod Ferguson of Blizzard, who says, yeah, it's a known issue. We're working on it. So it's going to be changing up here for the Druid loot table. But, you know, there is a major patch coming up that has been confirmed. So imagine that they might be making adjustments to other class loot tables as well. That is speculation, of course, but I would imagine that would be the case going forward. But yeah, they're honing in on the Druid loot table as well. Seems like there's a problem there. Also, we have this one right here. Rod Ferguson said this: taking my own advice, my Thorns Necromancer has defeated the Curator and is now on World Tier 3 Nightmare. Let the end game begin. And there's an interesting thing going on with this post. If we can take a look at the Necromancer here, look at his helm. So a lot of people were asking about this right here, wondering, hey, yo, Rod, where in the world did you get that beautiful helmet? In fact, this was posted right here by a Savage117. And the response is this: from imprinting a legendary aspect onto a rare helmet I had. So there you go. That's actually one way you can kind of morph a helm into something more. So if you didn't know that, that is actually something you can do. I believe some of you might actually not know that. Now, also, I wanted to mention this as well. Some of you may not realize this, but we have some amazing designs up right now on the Open World Games T-Shirt shop. Check it out right here. So this is one way you can support the channel, but look at these designs. They're absolutely beautiful, and I think there's something here for everyone. And yeah, there's quite the variety here, as you can clearly see. So yeah, check that out in the description below if you want a really cool T-shirt. Let's keep going, shall we? So we got to talk about this one right here. That yes, those aspects were disabled, of course, for particularly the Barbarian was mostly affected. As you can see here, multiple Barbarian Whirlwind items are still disabled after 3 days. On these items that have been disabled, it would be nice to get an update on what exactly is happening and maybe an ETA when we could use our items again. So we do have an official reply about why it's taking so long and what is going on with this. So let's get into it. On to Twitter we go. So it says, imagine instead of disabling aspects, you first had them fixed or adjusted how you wanted so people wouldn't get their builds screwed up for days. And we have a response here from Adam Fletcher of Blizzard, who says this: they're being fixed or bug exploit. Those fixes go through testing and then are pushed out. The team took an easier week to ensure individuals were well rested after a long week and a half of launch. There is work-life balance that is important for everyone. Yeah, you know, it is such a bummer that this has happened, but they do have to disable these very important aspects. On the other flip side of things, they don't want the team to absolutely burn out. There's a long way to go here with patch adjustments, balance changes, fixes. You got to remember they're also working on Season 1. They're working on the expansions. They're also simultaneously working on Season 2 as well. Now, I imagine, of course, that one team isn't handling all of this. You probably have a patch update team. But despite this, you also have to remember that they need their time off to step away, recharge. And yeah, I'm for that. It's a bummer this has happened. There's just no way around it. But I hope that they can get this addressed very soon, sometime this week. They did say that they hope to get that fix out this week. So I am hoping by, of course, tomorrow that they actually have some actual update out that will actually re-enable these aspects. That's what I'm crossing my fingers about. They also did mention briefly, I believe, on Twitter that they're trying to get it out today. I'll keep you guys in the know, of course, what happens there. Now, we got to talk about this new class that is being introduced to Diablo Immortal. This is the first time we're seeing a brand new class since 2014. And I'm going to talk about here why I'm a little worried about Diablo 4 in regards to this news. So check it out right here. It says this: in honor of our first anniversary, we're expanding the world of Immortal with Destruction Wake. Enter new dungeons and slay new demons on June 15th. So that's cool that they're doing that for Immortal, because I would expect something similar to also happen with Diablo 4, that they would add similar type of new experiences into Diablo 4. It's basically a very similar framework of a game in terms of post-launch support. Now, Rod Ferguson did say this right here. He goes on to say the following. Says, a year already, Diablo Immortal has never stopped evolving. It's significantly different from launch. More to come, including the first new Diablo class since 2014. Congrats to the Immortal team, and thank you to the millions of players. So that is really cool that we're going to be seeing a brand new class in Diablo game. It's just not the game that I want it to be in Diablo Immortal as opposed to Diablo 4. I want news about what's happening with a new class here in Diablo 4. Now, the interesting thing about this is if this new class that's introduced into Immortal is so good and it does not appear in Diablo 4, I am 100% certain that is definitely going to ruffle some feathers here from the Diablo 4 community. They're going to be like, hey, what in the world? Why don't we get that? I'm hoping that they're smart enough to really understand that going forward. That's why I think we might see some crossover content from Diablo Immortal eventually. I don't think it's going to happen all at once. I might be wrong about that because they're going to want to most likely keep the Immortal class unique. Same thing with Diablo 4. And I do think that we might see some crossover events advertising Diablo Immortal in Diablo 4. That might be a little bit strange to say, but I think that is going to happen. We'll have to wait for official news about all of this, of course. But yeah, mentioning official news, check this out right here. This is posted by the official Diablo Twitter account. It goes on to say this one right here. It says, Chloe Moretz is ready to face the demonic legions of Diablo 4. The first episode of Diablo Dungeon Crawl with Cleo Thomas is out right now. And you can see her playing Diablo 4 right here. It's actually a pretty entertaining video. Check it out for yourself, especially if you're a fan of hers. You may know her from, you know, that little movie called Kick-Ass. Extremely memorable movie. But yeah, it's cool to see that she's playing Diablo 4. And, you know, again, kudos to Blizzard for their marketing. They have been absolutely nailing it in every regard, in my opinion, with the marketing of this game. It also explains why the game has sold 666 million in 5 days following the launch of the game. That is extremely impressive. That number, of course, is very ominous and fits perfectly into the mold of Diablo 4. I mean, come on now. Also, we got to talk about this one right here as well. Check it out right here. It says over 6,000 players managed to reach Diablo 4's level cap. So that's pretty impressive. Level 100, 6,000 players. That's also shared between hardcore and softcore. But there was only a few hardcore players that actually reached that milestone. Check it out. It says right here from the Diablo Facebook page, thought there would be more at 100. If we scroll down here to the stats, we have level 100 hardcore players, only 163 in the world so far. That is absolutely incredible. Now, there is a huge feature in Diablo 4, a key mode, I guess you would call it, that is not being utilized as much as I think Blizzard was intending. Check it out right here. It goes on to say the following. Blizzard's Diablo 4 stats suggest barely anyone is trying PvP. So this is interesting. Let me know if you guys are actually playing PvP or avoiding it altogether. I'm kind of curious. Now, for comparison, we've got to talk about PvE. The article goes on to say this. In their 276 million hours in the game, players have slaughtered 276 billion monsters and died a mere 317 million times, 5.8 million of which were served by the Butcher. Damn. That is, I believe, an overall KDR about 871. Well done all. In the ending war of player versus environment, the environment is getting absolutely stomped. Now, if we scroll down here, we have PvP numbers. This is the comparison, okay? So it says PvP is a much more modest story. Only 430,000 players have died so far in PvP battles, and I have to imagine it's because most players are avoiding it. I certainly am. Diablo is about turning hordes of mobs into thin paste, not about combat with people who can meaningfully fight back. That's just rude. Yeah, so there's definitely a let's just say, balancing issues in PvP currently. And I think a lot of people just don't want to deal with it, perhaps, or they just don't know how to actually really get involved just yet. And I honestly think that the majority of players are also dealing with real life stuff, work, family, school, studying, and they haven't had the opportunity to really get into PvP as much. Or you know what? There's also another theory here that people just enjoy the PvE way more. I think also there's quite a bit of people that are also playing this as a solo experience. I'm seeing top comments. We'll get into those here in just a moment. But yeah, I think that's also the case. They don't want PvP. They want like a solo, single player, traditional type experience. And yeah, a little bit of co-op thrown in there as well. Now, this is an interesting article. Check it out. It comes from Forbes. It says Diablo 4 needs gear, skill, and Paragon loadouts, even if it breaks tradition. Oh boy. So I've heard a lot of people saying that they want this. Let's get into the article here. Very interesting stuff. It says, while I'm loving Diablo 4, the further I get into the endgame, the more I want to start experimenting. That includes starting other characters, which is why I have a level 48 rogue, but I want to try different builds within my current class. That is a bit of a more complicated story. Let me know if you guys are feeling the same way, if you just don't want to abandon your current class. Now, the article goes on to say this right here. Before the game was released, I talked to the team about trying to blend Diablo 2's unforgiving skill point system, Diablo 3's easy switching and basic Paragon points. They landed in the middle and did say they thought you would be better off paying the high costs to respec everything rather than making a whole new character. Given how long it takes to level post 50, I really understand that bit now. However, I still do not love where we landed here. Say I want to experiment with a bleed build instead of the stun build currently on my barbarian. It's not just switching out all my gear, which can be a bit of a chore to manage itself. And it's not just switching out my skills, which costs a bit of money, but is relatively straightforward. But now with the addition of the Paragon board, the sprawling maze-like assignment of stats and bonuses, and even legendary abilities, it's kind of a nightmare to even think about doing it. That's the big problem. It gets completely overwhelming to reassign everything, especially one by one. In fact, we actually have a really interesting post that ties into this right here. Check it out. It goes on to say this right here. Easily reset Paragon board. Control click on starting node and confirm we need this. And it got 1,900 upvotes. So yeah, I think Blizzard is definitely going to have to make that happen. Now, we got comparisons to Destiny 2 as well. Let's keep going. It says right here, one of the best additions to Destiny 2 in recent memory was the game's addition of loadouts this past year. It dramatically opened up build diversity and made experimentation much, much easier. But I'm willing to compromise here, and I don't necessarily need totally frictionless switching. That's not a road Diablo 4 wants to go down. So what's the middle ground here? How do they make this happen? So sound off as to what you guys want to see. I know a lot of you guys don't want this game to end up like Diablo 3 in many ways, but is this one way that you think it should? Now it says they can still make it a gold sync. Granted, I do think the game has enough gold syncs given the high cost of repairs, upgrades, effects, extraction, and implementation later, but fine. I want to change my preset stun build to a separate one I made for bleed. Charge me 500,000 gold or whatever, so I'm not doing it on the fly all the time. Yeah, I suppose that's fair, of course. A lot of you guys wish that gold wasn't even a part of this, that you just had the absolute freedom to respec, but Blizzard is like, yo, hold up. We want things to actually matter. We want choice to feel like it is certain and your character is kind of like more concrete in some ways. We get that you need to adjust, but come on now, there needs to be some sort of penalty so that you're also encouraged to create new characters as well. Now, it goes on to say this as well. It says, but the idea of changing absolutely everything, including your entire Paragon board, then if you want to change back, doing it all over again, piece by piece, it's just far more work than it needs to be. It discourages experimentation and herds everyone into the same metas because they'll just stay there and stick with the one thing they know will work rather than undoing it all just to try something else. Yeah, it's just the safest bet. Furthermore, he says this, I get that this is not traditionally how Diablo has done things past maybe saving some gear options, But we are in uncharted territory here, especially with this new vast Paragon system that requires a different sort of management. I just don't know what the game benefits by making switching builds this involved. Both the game and players would benefit for a more refined system than the one that exists now. So yeah, I gotta know if you agree with this article or not. I thought it brought up so many good points. You know, it's not as big of a deal respecting your character mid-game even, but once you get really into the end game, you got to know what you're doing, because the cost does get pretty high to keep going. You got to save your coin for the most important stuff, which I think a lot of us would agree would be enchantments. You know, you don't want to constantly be throwing coin into respecting over and over again. So yeah, fine-tuning your characters is very much a part of the in-game experience, so I'm curious to see how this might evolve over time. They said that they would be watching it, by the way, officially, and that's all they're going to do right now, and then go from there. They haven't said they're going to change it or anything. That's it. Now, let's go over your top comments. Remember, leave a comment down below. It could end up in a future video, but also a reminder, be sure to check out the amazing new t-shirt designs on the Open World Games T-Shirt Store. I'm sure there's something here for everyone. Now, remember, if you do purchase a t-shirt, it is one way that you actually support the channel as well. So yeah, check it out in the description below. All right, I think it's time to go over your top comments. My most recent video was this one right here. New update is live, but there's a problem. New change to bosses, dungeons, and PvP. Yeah, you know, the new update went live recently. But the thing is, they're so vague in the patch notes. They don't exactly tell us, is this a nerf or buff? They just said, this has changed. This has been adjusted. They definitely need to let us know in what way this is being adjusted. That's my assessment of it. Now, let's get into it. So we have this one right here from, how do you say this? Make Our Slay 6597. Hopefully I'm reading that right. It says, what Blizzard needs to add is another tab in the journal on the map, one specifically for events like World Boss, Helltide, Gathering Legion, and a timer for when the World Tree stuff changes over. They should also add an option to have those visible on the same spot where quest tracking appears. Dude, once again, like, these are pure amazing development ideas. Like I've always said, you guys should be on the development team. That should already be in the game. I mean, I'm surprised that is not in the game, but yes, it should be in the game for sure. Now, we have this one right here. Can confirm that Alderwood is an amazing nightmare dungeon to farm. The moment you mention that, it's probably got nerfed. No, I'm just kidding. Now, it says it's short, simple, and has good mob density for quick clears and decent amount of loot. I power leveled one of my glyphs with it because the run was so short compared to most other dungeons. So yeah, let me know if it got nerfed. I'm kind of curious. Now, Anthony says this right here. I just want to say how much I appreciate your videos and how they don't spoil any kind of late game story or big in gameplay. I did that on purpose, guys. Like, I don't want to spoil stuff for you at all. It says, as a father, I don't get a lot of time to play, so being able to watch your videos for updates while knowing you're not going to spoil anything means so much. Thank you from all the casual father and mother players. Oh, dude, you're welcome. Man, thank you so much. That really got to me, that comment. I appreciate it. Yeah, my goal with this channel and with the news for Diablo 4 in particular was not to spoil any of the story at all. I made sure in the gameplay clips that you guys are seeing in the background, it's more like world events. It doesn't really involve the story. It's going to be in-game stuff, of course, which again is not story. So yeah, you have no worries about that whatsoever. And that's how it's going to go for expansions, anything related to that story. So you have no worries whatsoever. All right, let's keep going. We have this one from Shamir who says, another Easter egg, so to speak, is literally Linden, the scoundrel follower from Diablo 3. Through some mission in Blackwater in the Hauser region, you can see how well he has done during these years between Diablo 3 and Diablo 4. Love it. Yeah, they have all sorts of really cool stuff hidden away in this game. I'd love to be able to make an Easter egg video down the road. I don't know, maybe it's possible. But there it is, the latest happenings around Diablo 4. Thank you all so much for the comments and watching the videos. I greatly appreciate the enormous support lately for my Diablo 4 content. I would have never, ever imagined this would be the path that my YouTube channel would take. It's just crazy what happens with YouTube. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned here for more, and I will see you all next time. Take care.